talk about the Office of Government Efficiency, shall we? You know, the entity which claims its mission is to end wasteful spending because, as it turns out, the broligarch and ketamine king Elon and his merry band of unripened incels were given $7 million of our taxpayer money to cover their expenses in the span of a single week. The foreign-born private citizen with the unfathomable wealth and deep financial ties to our nation's adversaries has seized control of our government and is currently canceling congressionally apportioned money without a shred of authority. Maybe it's time we impeach the motherfucker, you know, since Republicans keep telling us we voted for him when we didn't. And as an aside, inflation isn't lowering. Eggs are more expensive. They never declassified the Epstein files. Shocker. They have stopped monitoring bird flu. They've scrubbed the CDC of most of its pertinent information. We have a tuberculosis outbreak. They've baselessly blamed DEI for horrific plane crashes, and they've handed the keys to our Social Security and banking information to an unelected foreigner. Oh, yeah, and we've started trade wars with basically the entire world, brought tuberculosis back, and flooded critical farmland in California with the water they were reserving to fight forest fires. Oh, but at least they got their plastic straws back, right? And since we're talking, there is no such thing as being too woman to pilot a helicopter, or too gay to land an airplane, or too black to be an air traffic controller. There is, however, such a thing as being too hateful, too stupid, and too sociopathic to be president. And we call that Donald J. for Genius Trump. Editor-in-chief of Midas Touch is back on the Are You Effing Kidding Me podcast this week. My friend Ron Filipkowski and I shoot the shit as per usual in such a cathartic way. I really hope you enjoyed this conversation. I know I did. I always do. All right, see you next time. Bye. Well, on a icy, stormy, snowy day where Ron is, and icy, stormy here in Jersey, welcome back for the, I don't even know, fifth time maybe, to my friend, to the Are You Effing Kidding Me podcast, Ron Filipkowski. Hi, Ron.
Hi, how's it going? Yeah, you're right. We're getting a lot of snow here in Maine
Yeah, I
today.
think you're getting a lot more than me. Are you guys bracing for something next week too? Because that we're supposed to be getting dumped on next week.
Sunday, they said, yeah.
Oh,
So
Sunday.
a lot today and then a lot Sunday.
Yeah, I saw something about Monday, Tuesday, and like maybe 12 inches, which is like, oh, the light was so nice the other day. I thought we were kind of like making it's early, but I was like, oh, maybe we're turning the corner towards spring. But no, not quite. Some warm weather would be nice because of the crazy that is going on, that is like flood the zone with shit. So let's just check in first of all, just as a top line. Like how, I don't think we've talked since the inauguration, actually. So how are you doing? What are you thinking? How are you handling all of this? Like, how's your day to day?
Well, obviously, it's funny because after Trump won, some of my friends were like, well, this will be good for your work because you'll have so much content. I'm like, no, like,
Yeah.
no, I'm good with having less content, but
Mhm.
obviously they were right because it's just nonstop mayhem, 24/7. You wake up and it's craziness, and all throughout the day, it's just one thing after another. So when you write a daily news column, it just like never stops what they're throwing out there. And I was just listening to the Project 2025 guys, Paul Gans and who's the other guy, Russ Vought, and some of those other ones, and
Yeah.
they were asked about this. They were asked about how is all this happening so fast, all these executive orders, and they said, look, we've been planning for this for a year. That's what Project 2025 was all about. We had these executive orders typed up and ready to go. We had the people ready to go. Like, they've been geared up for this, to flood the zone with all this stuff for a long
Mhm.
time. Of course, they denied it,
Yep.
that had
He
anything to
denied
do
it.
with it. But
Yep.
so that's part of the problem right now. Hopefully it's going to slow down a little bit in a month or so. But part of the problem is they had so much in the can ready to unleash, and they're unleashing it every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's talk about that real fast, the Project 2025 thing, because Trump, infamously and repeatedly said, some version of the same thing, which was either that he hadn't read it on purpose, or
Right.
that he wasn't familiar with it, or that some of
Right.
it was good, but he didn't like some of the rest of it, even though he hadn't read it. But he was always perpetually distancing himself from it. At one point, he even said it wasn't right that they released this thing because that and it would put him on the spot, which of course is a bunch of bullshit. But they were able to successfully like untether him from this thing that we all knew was a clear blueprint, which is another failing of, oh, well, we can get into that autopsy all day long. But nearly two-thirds of those executive actions were really directly as a result or related to what was outlined in Project 2025, Schedule F. I mean, he's talking about NOAA now, the Department of Education, the using the National Guard at our border, our military at our border. All that is in Project 2025. Now they're talking about OSHA and rolling back workplace safety in Project 2025. It's like, it's basically was the manifesto that we all said, the Paris Climate Agreement. It 100% was the blueprint we all said it was. And everyone's like, what is going on? Like, we tried to tell them, but it didn't work. Project 25 somehow just didn't get through.
Yeah, they're really, as someone who read the whole Project 2025 thing and watched all of Trump's policy videos that he released in 2023, which were all written, scripts were all written by Stephen Miller, who's his policy director. Very little of this has come as any surprise to me. I realize that for most voters, a lot of this is a surprise. I mean, there's been a few things, the government buyout thing, which is basically like Schedule F on steroids. So that's trying to get all the people who aren't Schedule F federal employees to just quit, to just leave. And, the stated purpose of that, according to Musk, is that they're doing that to shrink government. I don't believe that for a second. I think that what they're doing with that is they're trying to get all those people to quit, career civil servants across the government, so they can replace them because those are the people who don't fall under Schedule F. Those are the people that they can't fire. So they're trying to bribe them to quit.
Yeah.
And if what they're saying is true, oh, we're not going to fill those positions, we're just going to leave them open and delete those positions of everyone who quits, I don't buy that for a second.
No.
I think what they want to do is replace all of them with party loyalists all throughout the government. So that, and like obviously the Gaza thing was not in any of these policy papers. So there has been a small handful of things that have been a surprise, but like you said, 2/3 of it, no, we knew about it.
Yeah.
Even if voters didn't, we knew.
Yeah, and I honestly, call me naive or whatever, but of all the awful I had imagined, I don't think my brain ever went to Elon Musk is going to have social security numbers and have like access to some of the most sensitive financial information in our country's, within our country's capacity. And I didn't actually think he was going to be able to get his fucked up little fingers in so deep. You know what I mean? Like I figured he would cause trouble, and I also figured they would have more friction between the two of them. But like the fact that DOGE and Elon, and I called them unripened incels, like the 25-year-olds or 24-year-olds or whatever, who are now also in the FAA. We could talk about that. But I didn't actually anticipate that, and Project 2025 doesn't talk about that when it talks about, the administrative state and dismantling it. I didn't see Elon Musk filling that gap.
They never said this. So you have all the Democrats in Congress now saying the American people didn't vote for Elon Musk. Nobody voted for Elon Musk. And the pushback, the response to that from Republicans is, oh, yes, Trump said Musk was going to be a major part of his administration, so everybody knew that. That is definitely not true. I paid very close attention to what was said.
Yep.
What was said was that DOGE was going to be an advisory committee that was going to look at the federal budget line by line and make recommendations to Congress for programs to be cut. I don't have any problem with that. If that's what they want to do, they want to sit down, go through the budget and go, hey, House of Representatives, Mike Johnson, you need to cut this, 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 and this. That's what they sold to the voters. And then after the election, the disturbing part of it was when he talked about moving into the executive office building across from the White House and having offices there. I'm like, that sounds like you're going inside government. And then the falling out with Vivek Ramaswamy occurred when basically Musk told him revealed to him, no, what we originally said we were going to do during the campaign, that's not what we're doing.
Mm-mm.
We're going inside the White House. And now they're in the West Wing, not the executive building. Now they're actually in the West Wing. And when he revealed to Vivek everything that he planned on doing, that's when Vivek was out. So
Mm-hmm.
there's conflicting stories about whether he was pushed out or not. But I believe, yes, he was pushed out, but I believe he was pushed out because he found out what this was all about and wanted no part of it. Because he wanted something where he could still run his businesses, run for governor of Ohio, and do
Mm-hmm.
this advisory committee, but he didn't realize this was going to be a full-time job to dismantle the government. And
Yeah.
that's when he dipped out, because he's running for governor of Ohio.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? Because I know lots of people have lots of speculation, and I know that we haven't seen the full like fruits of this effort. But what do you think Elon ultimately wants to do with the access he's gotten from our Treasury Department, with all of the Social Security numbers and the financial records and all of that, and the Medicaid, Medicare? What does he want to do?
Yeah, there's so many different reports about this that some of it's being run through his AI, program, a lot of the data. Um, who knows exactly? I mean, we do know that they claimed that they only requested read-only access to Treasury data,
Mm.
but now we're finding out from emails that are being uncovered that that is not the case, that when they initially requested access to Treasury information, it was specifically to cut off payments to USAID. So that showed that they wanted this data to do something with it, not
Hmm.
just to look at it. So what his end goal is, I don't think we know for sure, but obviously the way they view the budget is that rather than, so the budget gets passed by Congress, it gets appropriated to different programs for different things. It goes into the executive branch, and the executive branch pushes out the payments. The
Hmm.
way they view how this is supposed to work is completely different,
Yeah.
which is the way Richard Nixon tried to do it, which is basically that they can impound, that they can freeze, that they can block money from being dispersed on their own. The executive branch that's been appropriated by Congress, which basically turns Article 1 completely on its head. And
Hmm.
if the Republicans in the Senate and the House are going to let them do this, then they basically just abdicated their Article 1 authority, their responsibility. Why do we have a Congress
I,
then?
yeah, I call them self-gelding. Like that's what they're doing. Like they every day I'm like, what are you, why are you punching yourselves in the dick? Like you guys have, they're supposed to have a check on the executive, and you are not acting that way. You're certainly not acting like you, I mean, the 30-day notice for the inspectors general, like that whole thing, they were like, it's fine. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
supposed to do that, but like it's fine. And it's like,
Except
what?
for like Chuck Grassley. He was
Yeah.
the only one who
Because
sent
he's
a strongly worded
right.
letter.
Because he's
I
7,000
don't
years
know that he's
old.
heard anything back yet,
Right,
but
right. Chuck's gonna literally like we're gonna carbon date him,
he's
and when he
90 years
finds out,
old.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's another thing, like that whole age thing on both sides, right? I don't know what the median age is. I need to look this up because it's like got to be at least 60 for even for the Democrats. Because I think on the youngest end we have like Brian Schatz and maybe Chris Murphy, and they're both obviously
I
like,
think we're older than they are now.
oh, that's right, because they've got like you've got Katie Britton there, and even Holly, and like the other people that bring that number down, and we don't have a lot of that. Yeah, that's true. But like,
You know something very interesting? AOC's campaign manager and chief of staff is running against Nancy Pelosi.
I saw that.
He's
I
from
did.
San Francisco.
I
Yeah.
did see
I mean,
that.
it's kind of crazy because they asked AOC about it and she was like, no comment. She didn't want,
Uh-huh.
didn't want to talk about it, So, I
I
mean, but that's kind of, I mean, I don't think he's going to win, of course, a Democratic primary in her district, but we
Yeah, no.
may start seeing some more of this.
Why not? I mean, no, I mean, why not? Like, let's talk about that because, like, look, again, the autopsy of what went wrong, and there's a million trillion things that went wrong, obviously, in this election. Not a lot that went right. But one of the things that I honestly believe, I really do, is that as terrifying and horrible as this is, it's an opportunity to rebuild, to build something new, something that actually is more sustainable, that is more reflective of the electorate than what we had, because what we had was moving further and further away from the average American person. Like they were just like AOC splitting tickets with Trump because people like get what she's at least saying makes sense to me. Is what they were looking at throughout the rest of the party was so much establishment like nonsense and out of touch and language and messaging in ways that just didn't land. And so why not start challenging some of the institutionalists and the establishment? Like I think that if you could possibly find a silver lining in all of this, maybe that's one.
And this is something that the Republicans have definitely done
Oh
over the
God,
last 6 years is they have competitive primaries all over the place,
mm-hmm.
including with some of their biggest names.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Lindsey Graham, they're talking about putting up a serious primary challenger to Lindsey Graham, to Bill Cassidy in Louisiana, to John
Yeah.
Cornyn in Texas. I
Yeah.
mean, these aren't like they're putting up real serious candidates to go against their old guard, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of them are being defeated in primaries. And
Yeah.
so, but the Democrats really have not done that, hardly at all. Very, very few. We
Yeah.
don't have very many serious primaries in the Democratic Party,
Yeah.
and especially against party leaders. It's
Yeah,
been
no,
a
that's
long
true.
time.
That's
So, I mean, like, Schumer, these guys all run unopposed. I think Nadler had a serious challenger
yeah, with Carolyn wasn't.
that he
Yeah.
barely beat.
Yeah.
But, we don't have many that occur, and it probably is healthy. And part of the reason why we don't have many is because the party leadership is strongly discourages it
Yeah.
and strongly tries to talk people out of it instead of,
Yeah.
staying out of it.
Yeah.
Hopefully that will change.
Hopefully, and
Yeah.
we have a new DNC chair. I don't know much about yet, but I was hoping it was going to be Ben Wickler, and it's not. But like, hopefully, we let hopefully some of the institutionalists who are have been clinging on to power for like Chuck Grassley long, like they need maybe we can pry their claws out of our party so that we can actually start changing and adapting and moving forward in the way that we need to. I mean, if nothing was going to wake us up, if this isn't going to wake us up, nothing was. You know what I mean?
Can I give you an example? The
Yeah, of course.
RFK Jr. Senate confirmation hearing, because I watched the whole thing and there was something about it that really bothered me because most of the senators on that committee, I forget which committee it was that he went through because he had two hearings, but
Yeah.
it was the first one. They're all quite old, okay, and they were all focusing on the vaccine conspiracy stuff,
Hmm.
and you look at their donations. A lot of them get a lot of donations from the pharmaceutical industry, that
Hmm.
Democrats that were asking the question. So
Yeah.
here's the thing that upsets me is that the part of the Kennedy agenda that's quite popular with the American public and with many Democrats is his health, eating healthy, all the organic
The
foods and
Maha
eating
stuff.
healthier foods in school. This was a Michelle Obama initiative that
Yeah.
Republicans ridiculed her about.
Yeah.
Somehow we have allowed this nut to co-opt that issue.
Yeah.
And so you just don't hear it. There are so many young people who have gravitated towards this kook, RFK Jr., because of that. And I think Democrats are making the mistake of just saying, oh, RFK is all about vax conspiracies.
Hmm.
Not really. Most of his, yes, that's part of his following, but a big chunk of his is the organic farming movement, the community farming, the
Yeah.
eating healthy food,
Yeah.
less
Exercising.
dependent on medication. Like Democrats cannot give up that territory to Republicans
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
led by Donald Trump.
Right.
Like how did we give up healthy food and healthy lifestyle to the Republican Party?
Especially
Like,
when Donald Trump's blood type is basically hamburger grease. Yeah.
yeah, and I don't hear like Democrats in the Senate, like their whole line of attack against him was like vax stuff and
Yeah.
defending the pharmaceutical industry. And I'm just, after an hour of listening to that, I'm like, how did we get to the point where we're the party of the pharmaceutical industry and
Oh.
they're the party of healthy food? How
Yeah.
did this happen?
Well, I mean, it's not the first or last thing they've co-opted, right? They're also the party of patriotism and loving our troops and backing the
Yeah,
blue. It's like it's the
right.
craziest thing. It's like they manage somehow, and I guess it's that whole propaganda machinery that they have, but also that our senators, and particularly our senators, and that's an age issue, apologies, not trying to be ageist, but like they just don't get it. They just don't get it. And I have been banging my head against the wall, Ron, for months now, trying to get them to understand the importance of changing the way that they message, changing the way that they ask questions, changing the way that they talk about things. Because, like you just said, you're watching this hearing going, what the hell? This person's crazy. His cousin Caroline, who's the last surviving like child of John F. Kennedy, is saying my cousin is insane, and not just because of his back stuff, but because of all the other shit. He's a sociopath who got all of his other cousins hooked on friggin' drugs. Like, she's, this is so much easier than they're making it seem. And then they're kind of making it again seem like they're in the pocket of big pharma. I don't mean like they seem like it. They probably are. In all likelihood, they are. Another thing that needs to change bilaterally, like that unilaterally, I mean, bipartisanly, that has to change. But yeah, this is where I want to scream, because the messaging is so intrinsic to why these things can be co-opted. That's like, that should be a layup for us. Like,
that's our territory. I mean,
right.
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I go to the big fair here in Maine. I went this past fall. And it's like, where all the organic farmers are and local farmers and everything. It's all it's 20,000 liberals. It's 20,000 progressives. And there's like not one Republican there probably.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Robert F. Kennedy's message is about what these people believe in, and they're all Democrats. It's like, where's the Democrat out there talking about this stuff? Where I'm sure they're out there somewhere. I mean, I've heard the governor of Colorado, Polis, talk about this stuff a little bit, and Michelle Obama did. But Democrats need to go back into, why can't we be for healthy food? Why are we giving this to MAGA, who's like has some of the most unhealthy daily eating habits of all?
Right.
I don't know. It's just, I don't want to spend too much time on that, but it's just, that's a hallmark of the fact that a lot of these people have been there too long.
And they've lost touch with, first of all, the party's origins, the people, what people care about, and how to talk about it. That honestly, that's and where to talk about it, because I don't give a shit about TV and Senate hearings and all the other shit. I know that those things are necessary, but like, anyway, we can have a whole deep dive on all of that stuff. But let's get into some more of the crazy that has been happening. Like, for instance, not in Project 2025, Donald Trump saying the United States of America is going to own Gaza. They're just going to move out the Palestinians that are left there. We don't know where to, but he said maybe Norway, right? Some of the countries that supported them, but they're just going to move them out, and then he's going to develop it into the most beautiful development and on the face of the earth. And Bibi today was like, yeah, okay. So like how is Mr. Infrastructure Week never happened going to go in and develop another country?
Yeah, well, we're taking over Greenland, right? And Don Jr. went there and said everybody loves us, and it turns out they paid a bunch of homeless people to go on camera and say that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Panama Canal. So we have Marco Rubio comes back from his trip to Panama and puts out a statement saying all U.S. shipping is now free. We don't have to pay any more fees to use the canal because of him. The government of Panama put out a statement last night saying, I don't know what he's talking about. We never agreed to that. We have no idea what he's just blatantly lying. So that's our relationship with Panama. Obviously, what we just went through with the tariffs with Canada, everyone in Canada hates us, and Mexico.
Yeah.
We went through that whole charade. And now he's in South Africa. He's now claiming that people in South Africa are discriminating against white people. And Rubio is now not going to attend the G20 summit in Pretoria because of this. Elon Musk is saying that the U.S. needs to allow all the white South Africans to come into the United States because they're being persecuted. Only the white ones.
Just the white ones.
So now we get to the Middle East. I mean, we just did a tour of Donald Trump's latest foreign policy. We get to this, and it's like, he's met with Bibi many times over the last year, many times, which is very suspicious.
Yeah.
Down at Mar-a-Lago, even before the election.
Never
it's
said
like, what are they
talking
meeting about? What are they talking about? Obviously, one thing we know is like there was not going to be any ceasefire prior to the election, right? Bibi and him were conspired on that
We
he
we
wasn't
barely
going to
snuck it in.
negotiate
Yeah, right. We snuck
because
it
they
in as the
knew that
Biden
that
administration.
caused problems inside the Democratic Party,
Mm-hmm.
which it did, and in Michigan.
Yep.
And they wanted to make sure that that continued through the election.
Disgusting. That's
So then,
disgusting.
right. So then you have this, and I don't know that anyone knew that this was going to happen except Netanyahu. Some people thought, oh, maybe Netanyahu didn't even know he was going to say this. Well, I don't know. I kind of think that they cooked this up,
Oh,
but Trump wasn't supposed to say this. I think that's the only reason why Netanyahu looked a little surprised is I think Trump was saying the quiet parts out loud, and Netanyahu was like,
yeah.
maybe we don't need to tell the whole world
Yeah.
all the details right
Yeah.
now.
Like Donald Trump has any filter though.
But
Right.
Republicans in Congress were shocked. I mean, this is the guy who talked about no wars.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to go anywhere. We're not going to be the policeman of the world. Now he's talking about taking 2.2 million Palestinians out of Gaza, sending them into Jordan and Egypt, both of whom's governments just said, we are not taking these people,
Mm-mm.
and even the Saudi Arabian government, who's in bed with Trump, condemned this.
Yeah.
And they just said, because these Arab countries don't want the Palestinians, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in their country. They just
No.
don't.
No, they don't.
So and leveling the whole place, and then the U.S. is going to take, according to Trump, quote unquote, a strong ownership position.
Ownership.
We are going to take over Gaza. Now he says we don't need any U.S. troops. Are you kidding me? I mean,
Mm-mm.
you think that the United States is going to build buildings, hotels, developments, and those are not going to be bombed by terrorists. They're not going to be targets.
No.
We're going to have to guard those places like an armed
Forever.
camp.
Forever.
And not only that, no one's talking about this. This is inviting terrorist attacks on U.S. soil.
1000%.
You really think the Arab world is going to sit back and not respond to this with terrorism?
Oh my God.
They have more of a justification to carry out terrorist attacks based just on this than Osama bin Laden ever had.
1000%. That was, honest to God, my first fucking thought. And you and I are old enough to remember a certain Marine barracks in Beirut, right? Like you and I are old enough to remember that.
Yep.
My very first thought was, it's basically like he's putting a kick me sign, but it's an attack me sign on the United States of America. And because I can't help myself, Ron, I've never been this way, but I'm like, you said it yourself about the BB conversations. I'm losing my mind going, like, could it be? Like, could it be that he's opening the door to the kind of an attack that will give him an opportunity to use emergency fucking powers to seize total control of the government at once and for all? Because like that's what authoritarians and despots and dictators do, right? They often use a crisis, an attack, a pandemic or whatever to seize this last sort of tranche of control. And like making everybody think that it's the southern border is not safe and the southern border is this and that and the other thing. Meanwhile, you're lessening the safety requirements of our FAA, firing or letting those people leave, handing that over to DOGE again, and then asking for, the entire Muslim population of the world to just seek retribution that is justified by telling them that we're going to, not only are we going to, we have already bulldozed Gaza, and then we're going to take the Palestinians out and force them to go elsewhere. Not here, elsewhere. And like, you're not asking for an attack. So then my brain goes down, and I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but I'm like, what if part of the conversation that they were having was not just like, yeah, I'll let you in and you can develop it and make all the money. And then I get to have, then I get to make my people happy because we've, gotten rid of Gaza. And what if part of that exchange was like, I don't know what's next. I don't know. This is my brain. I don't know, because I just can't imagine.
You have these Republicans like Kayleigh McEnany was on Fox last night saying, this is all a bluff, just like the tariff stuff. Like he doesn't really mean any of this stuff. If that's true, first of all, I don't believe this is a bluff. I mean, we always chalk everything Trump does up to a bluff, and it's not. And I don't think the tariff stuff was a bluff either. I think he got so much backlash, he backed down.
Yeah, agreed.
But that wasn't a bluff. But why would you, because this makes every American around the world and at home, but every embassy, every military installation, every American tourist, every American all around the world, it makes them less safe.
Mm-hmm.
And why? Because we are more in danger of a terrorist attack now because of what he just said.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's a bluff, why are you endangering Americans for a bluff? Like what's the end game of that? To negotiate a better deal with the Gazans? Like,
yeah.
It's insane. It's crazy. And I don't believe a lot of this stuff is a bluff. I take, can I tell you another thing that really annoys me about Democrats? And I think that right now, and I think that it's really, really important for Democrats to stay united and to stay unified and to not go after each other. And, but some of the most annoying things I see are Democrats saying, that's not important. That's a distraction. This is part of Trump's game. Yeah. He's just putting this out here to distract us, whether it's USAID or whatever. That's not really what's important. What's really important is over here. And it's like, no, this is so dumb to play this game. Like, what, we shouldn't pay attention to that because he's really bluffing, because he's really cares about something else. None of this stuff is a distraction. This stuff has been planned for a year. It's in Project 2025. If it's only being put out there to distract us, why did they spend so much time writing the policy and putting it together and putting the people in place?
Right.
Like, these things are not distractions. Okay. Saying like they want to, like somebody just said, Tom Cotton just said there was money in the USAID budget for trans beauty pageants in New Zealand. Of course there's not, but those are the kind of things that are distractions. But this other stuff this is serious. It's not distraction. So I wish I could get Democrats to stop going every time, some news breaks. We've just discovered Trump is just doing this. They say, oh, no, that's not important. That's just a distraction. And Hakeem Jeffries made a similar statement, about where he said, we're not going to respond to everything. We're only we're going to be like a hitter who only swings at certain pitches.
What?
Right.
So there's an argument to be made legislatively anyway. Like there's an argument to be made for picking and choosing, what your fights are going to be. But I would agree with you 100% on, especially as we know with Trump, because everything he says is sort of a test balloon, right? Like either it's already underway or it's some kind of like, I always think of it as like a cat that like does that thing where they get, they do the thing with the blankets. And I feel like it's like, or it's him kind of doing that where he's sort of seeding the ground to see like how fertile the ground will
be.
What
the reactions
other crazy thing, right? And then we had an insurrection on January 6th because the guy who said he wasn't going to accept the results of an election wouldn't accept the results of an election. So like any outlandish fucking thing that he says, we should give it credence because it could formulate itself, if it hasn't already, into an actual thing, right? With him, all bets are off. Like if he can do it, he's going to try to do it. And I remember when people used to tell you that they didn't think that you should put his videos up because they didn't want you to amplify what he was saying. And you were like, what the fuck? What are we going to do? Like, ignore the fact that he's saying the shit?
Ignore him and he'll go away. For example, that's what I heard a lot.
So much, Ron. So much. For example, the videos that you
put out. He
didn't
go away.
No, and the videos you put out for a year straight that I fucking responded to every goddamn time of the Tan Mom videos in front of the fucking flags, that all of a sudden this year, post-election, a year after you put them out, a year after I made the Tan Mom jokes about them every fucking time, where he was outlining Project 2025, a year later after the election, even more, people were like, where did these videos come from? Did you ever see these videos? And I'm like, yeah, Ron put them out there. And you guys said, we don't think you should be amplifying Donald Trump because it just gives him more oxygen. Okay, let's
he's not going to do any of this stuff, was what they said, right?
Right.
This is all just nonsense. He's just trying to get attention. Don't give him attention. It's like, no. These are Stephen Miller's policies that he's carefully crafted with the guys in Project 25. They've all put these together. Like, this is serious. They're not joking around. Miller doesn't joke.
No.
Elon Musk and Stephen Miller are running the country. Donald Trump doesn't know what. I agree with Donald Trump about one thing. He told the truth. He doesn't know half of what he's signing. I agree with him on that. But who does know is Stephen Miller and Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah.
And they are the ones running the country and implementing his agenda. As you see in the Oval Office, they're just handing stuff to him.
Oh, yeah.
What's this?
What's this one?
Oh, this is about defunding. Oh, okay, you know.
Read
and
it
he's
out
just
loud.
signing shit.
Yep.
These things have been typed up for months
Yep.
by Stephen Miller.
Yep.
So, and Musk is the guy who's helping implement them and helping put out the propaganda about what they're doing on using his social media platform.
Yeah, right.
So they're working hand in glove. And they even said that they're working closely together, Musk and Miller. So those are the two people running the United States right now. Donald Trump is playing president and rolling out there and telling dumb stories like last night that Tommy Tuberville told him that he coached Patrick Mahomes in college.
Oh, yeah. When he did.
Like, that's what Trump is doing. Trump is enjoying the playing the role of president and everybody calling him sir and kissing his ass. But Miller and Musk are running the country.
1,000 bazillion trillion %. And ironically, in irony of ironies, when all they ever said for 4 fucking years straight, and I've met the man and I know that this is not true, that Joe Biden was not running the country. He did not know what was going on. Somebody else, whether it was Barack Obama or Ron Klain or you name it, somebody else was running the country. Joe Biden didn't know what day of the week it was. That is a fucking flat out bullshit lie. The man was slower in his step by the end, but he 1,000% knew. And by the way, the president doesn't do every fucking thing in an administration. That's why you have the administrations. But you are exactly right. This is Nosferatu, Stephen Miller, and the fucking, ketamine king. They are running the country, and Donald Trump is just like, what's this one? Oh, okay, I'm going to declare that my hands are actually the largest hands in the history of time. Okay, did you hear that? My hands are the largest hands in the history of time. It's fucking ridiculous. But yeah, he has no interest. He never did have any interest. He wants his retribution. He does have certain things he wants.
There's certain things he cares about.
The FBI agents who were involved in January 6th,
the J6 pardons,
the J6 pardons, any of the retribution stuff. He 1,000% wants to do that. He wants anything related to Mark Milley. Those are things that, again, retribution, but like those are the things he fucking cares about. And
like removing the portraits of Mark Esper and Milley from the Pentagon, that was Donald Trump.
1,000%. Right. And the guys, the FBI agents, the guys and women who are recovering still the bodies from the midair crash, they are going back to their offices and having to fill out surveys about what their involvement was in the investigations pertaining to January 6th. I mean, that is all Trump too. Like, to get the CIA people and the FBI people, anybody who ever did anything that he perceives as like an investigation of him or anybody surrounding him, all of that retributive stuff, 1,000%. He is behind. But other than that, it is. You're right. It's the Project 2025 group. Who is that? What are they called? The Heritage Foundation or what the fuck ever? Yeah.
Heritage. Yeah.
Heritage Foundation.
But you have Russ Vought, who is the architect.
Oh, God.
He is Trump's budget director.
Yep. Well,
so I mean, the whole administration is all Project 2025 people, contributors and all that.
Yep. Yeah. I mean,
but I agree with you. Like, the campaign, the mistake that was made was way too much time and energy was spent trying to attach that to Trump, even though, yes, we all knew it was his plan, but it was so easy for him for the election to just say, that's not me. Like, that's not me. That's
on there.
And it's too hard for Democrats to make the case to, like, the low information voter.
Yeah.
Let me explain to you what is in this and why Trump really is tied to this, because he has this it's like, no, like, that was never going to work. I didn't understand the whole strategy of the Harris campaign spending so much time focused on trying to tie him to that, when you had his policy videos that he put out himself where he's on video saying shit, and they never used any of that.
I know.
It's like, why didn't you use Trump saying what he was going to do instead of trying to make the case about Project 2025? They're always arguing things at like a PhD level.
Yes. Yep. 1,000%.
Like, they're speaking to graduate students.
Yep.
Instead of speaking to, Mom and Joe in a small town who doesn't know what the hell you're talking about when you start talking about Project 2025, and never will.
Well, no, until they feel it, right? Like until they feel it, and that's what's going to happen. It's that we're already seeing that where Trump's telling them there's going to be a little bit of pain related to the tariffs, but that didn't happen, of course, not yet. Anyway, but egg prices have gone only up, and like those same people aren't really still. They're like, oh, it's fine, a little bit of pain for now, but that little bit of pain is just going to get worse and worse and worse. This shit's going to snowball when we start seeing the ramifications of some of the stuff they've dismantled. It's going to get really nasty. It's going to get ugly. It's going to get dark.
One part I'd keep my eye on, I'm interested in, is these infrastructure bill projects.
Well,
Because a lot of them have just been rolled out or about to be rolled. There's two ways they're going to go at this. I originally thought that Trump is just going to start claiming credit for all these.
His name on everything.
He's going to start showing up at these groundbreaking things, which were all passed by Biden.
Yep.
But now I'm starting to shift my thinking away from that and thinking, no, I think they're going to just try and cancel all these things.
They are trying to.
Yeah.
Right?
So rather than Trump claim credit, I think it's just going to be Musk is just going to say we're cutting off all the funding, even though it was passed by Congress 2-3 years ago.
And it's ironic because they did try and then another judge, maybe this judge, I think that was involved in the first judge's restraining order that they said they cannot suspend those projects or that money has been allocated.
That was a Rhode Island case.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So I think that was involved with this too, because initially they did say they were going to pause these infrastructure programs or infrastructure projects that that Biden and Congress had already approved. And really think
they just did a blanket pause on everything.
All the spending, right?
But what I'm saying is, are they specifically going to go in and the stuff that was part of the Biden Build Back Better infrastructure bill, those bills, are they going to specifically try and stop money from going out? Because here's why I say this: because the majority of those projects are in Republican districts and states. This is what is different about Joe Biden fundamentally than Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Is that the majority of the projects went to Republican districts, right? Mm-hmm. Which we know if Donald Trump could ever put together an infrastructure bill, it would not look like that. It would not look like a bunch of projects going to Democrats, right? But that's what Joe Biden did. Because why? Those are the places where the infrastructure was bad, where it's crumbling, were primarily Republican. So is he going to cancel money that's going into Republican state? Here's the other thing he could do. He could cherry pick. He could cancel the projects in the plan that are going to Democratic districts and let the Republican ones ride. Yeah, this is something to watch.
That is something to watch. And I think what he does with FEMA or whatever FEMA role becomes is also going to be one of those situations where is he going to deprive people in states that solidly vote for him or have voted for him or have voted for Republicans? Is he going to deprive them of the aid they need? Or is he just going to cherry pick and deprive the states like California of the aid that they need until they comply and do the things? There's this other part of me, Ron. I don't know. What do you think about this last question I'm going to ask? Because I think about this all the time. I honestly think the whole goal is not, and it is Miller's and Musk's, but I think Trump is just like, fine, sure, okay. I mean, this is a guy who would shank anybody, is to just let everything fucking crumble around them. Just let it all burn down to the ground and let the chaos ensue and let the American people suffer. And then in that, chaos, they just start gobbling up more and more power. And who has the time to care about whether the Constitution is being adhered to? And you're like, wait, there's bird flu and there's no medicine for bird flu and there's a hurricane and a tornado and an earthquake. And like, who the fuck cares about the Constitution? I don't know. This is where I'm at right now.
I don't think that that's what Trump wants, but I do think that that's what Musk and Miller want. Because I think that Trump truly believes that once his tax cuts go through and his tariffs are implemented, that there is going to be this golden era and the stock market's going to explode and everyone's going to be happy. I believe that in his mind, he thinks that that's how everything's going to play out. There's going to be peace all over the world and everything else. But I think that fundamentally Musk and Miller want to tear everything down, want to tear everything apart and start the American Republic over. In fact, Musk said yesterday on Twitter, he posted, "This is the second American Revolution." That's what he posted.
Project 2025 guy said. He said, remember? He said it'll be bloodless if they allow it.
That's what Musk posted yesterday on X. He said, "This is the second American Revolution," and he said, "and it is badly needed." So really, what they want to do is this is that they want to take the government pre FDR
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
because they're already saying like the income tax was a mistake. We should have never had an income tax. So Social Security, Medicare, even though they won't say that out loud yet, you know that they don't believe in any of those programs. They don't believe in the Civil Rights Amendment. They don't believe in Brown versus Board of Education. They don't believe in separation of church and state, right? So all of these things that have been just fundamental bedrock principles of this country, NATO, collective security for a century, they don't believe in any of that stuff. See, I think Trump does. I mean, Trump just wants everybody to be happy and love him, in a white utopia.
Unless you've
You know,
crossed
but
him, in which case he wants you to suffer.
but yeah, but the Musk Miller people want something, and the Project 2025 people want something much, much different. They want to return the United States basically to like 1927.
Yeah. Yeah, and that means our rights that will go with them on, by the way, and women in particular have a lot at stake as far as that goes. Well, we're not going. We could have had the not going back lady. We could have had her. We could have had the old man I love very much, who was not interested in taking us back in time either. But I'm now reminded of that Marjorie Taylor Greene ad that they cut, where Marjorie Taylor Greene was like, "The biggest social spending program since FDR." It was like, yes, that's right. We do want to do those things for our society, like education and infrastructure and, job growth and like, yeah, yeah. Ugh, ugh. But anyway, at least Enrique Tarrio is running for Congress. So there's that.
Yeah, he's trying to decide what district. He's from Miami, but
Well, people in Miami are finding out right now too, by the way, that like a lot of folks are, that Donald Trump said that but my family wasn't going to be deported because blankety blank 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 blank. Well,
there were two announcements yesterday by the two co-leaders of the Proud Boys. So the two guys who led the Proud Boys were Joe Biggs and Enrique Tarrio. So Enrique announced that he's looking to run for Congress, and Joe Biggs announced that no one will rent him an apartment because they're discriminating against him as a former. He just got out of prison, pardoned by Trump.
What state's he in?
I'm not sure what state, but he posted on Twitter yesterday that complaining that people won't rent apartments to him.
Well, Pritzker won't let them get hired.
He feels like that's unfair because he was pardoned, and it should be illegal because Trump said he's free now, so no one should take into account the fact that he led January 6th, led the Proud Boys on January 6th. So
you can openly discriminate now based on race or gender or political affiliation or ideology, but you cannot discriminate if you attacked our Capitol on January 6th, because the guy who was letting you discriminate on every other basis, whose entire family wealth is based upon discrimination, he said you were not a criminal anymore, even though we all watched you be a criminal.
Right.
Okay, well, that's my moment of zen for the day. So, Ron, you are writing a daily column, a daily bulletin, and it's on Substack, on the Midas Touch Substack. Congrats on that, by the way. You're killing it. I don't know how. I think you must have you must have a twin. I don't know, or you split your brain and I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do all the things that you do in a single day. So maybe you can explain that, but congrats on the bulletin, and people are digging it.
It's a long day. It's like 14 hours. I start at 6 a.m. So yeah, I mean, I really got this idea because I follow such a broad spectrum of the political universe. And what I notice is most people who cover politics, they're covering a beat. They're covering the House, the Senate, or the White House, or, a governor, state governor, or whatever. Or they cover the media. But there's no one out there that covers everybody, that covers everything from far left to far right, from the podcast world, the media world, state governments, Congress, the presidency, campaigns, candidates. And I follow all of that stuff every single day and keep track of it all. And I thought, what if I condense it all down into like a bullet point format where I'm just doing paragraph, boom, 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 one right after the other. Because I think I'm really good at like taking like a big New York Times story or Axios story and breaking it, boiling it all down to one paragraph. And
Yeah.
that's basically what I do. I read these long form articles, the Atlantic, wherever it is, and reporting from on the ground and out in the field. And I'm compiling the courts as well. And I'm compiling them into these bullet point formats where somebody can basically, if they read my column, at which I write every single day for 14 hours, it's everything that happened that day that I think is important, relevant, newsworthy, all condensed down into like paragraphs. So you don't have to read the whole article. You don't have to watch the speech. You don't have to, watch the show. I'm giving you in 3 sentences what I think is, because I've found in doing this, I read these long form articles by these famous journalists getting paid gajillions of dollars. And I try to put what the essence of what they wrote in one paragraph. And I find like that's pretty much 90% of the story.
Yeah.
I just put in one paragraph. Why did they write this column so long? It's a lot of filler. It's a lot of nonsense. So yeah, you can read my column every single day, and we offer it free. Most of it for free. Part of it is paid for paid subscribers, but a big chunk of it is free. And if you read my column every day, you pretty much know everything that's going on everywhere.
Which is crucial right now because information is power, and what they don't want us to have is information because that they can seize more power. So just giving it to people in as user friendly a manner as possible, Ron, is I don't like to call the resistance, but it is part of the process towards getting through all of this. And I appreciate that, because the truth tellers are the heroes right now, and you are among them. So I appreciate that. And I think that if you guys can handle bite-sized little blurps of stories so that you're informed, you should definitely do that as much as humanly possible so that you can help inform other people too. Yeah. So for now, we have the courts. You mentioned the courts, keeping up on the courts. We have the courts for now because we have another judge who's blocked this whole like fork in the road hiring bullshit, which may not, these people are leaving their jobs and may not ever get the 8-month payout or whatever. But so that is one place to hang my hat at the moment on a little bit of hopefulness. And as a former lawyer, you can speak at least to the courts. So, I mean, at least we have those right now. So I appreciate that you're covering that also in your newsletter. And I think we have to talk about that more so people don't lose hope. It's one of the bulwarks, at least, that's holding for now.
Well, 12 of the last 16 years, we've appointed the judges.
Right. So that helps.
We appointed a lot of judges.
Biden was
and we have a lot of governors' mansions. And so that's where we need to hang our hat. And by the way, our best talent for the future is in governors' mansions, whether it's Westmore, Whitmer, Newsom, Beshear, Shapiro. So much talent in the governor mansions.
By the way, Beshear, I don't know, you and I had a conversation. I know we have to go, but you and I had a conversation way long time ago about Mitch McConnell, and Mitch had made sure that they couldn't, if he whatever, that it would be the 3 choices that the Republicans would put forward, and then that they'd have to vote on those 3 choices. Now, I don't know if you knew this. I didn't know this. That changed in 24, maybe, where now it's just a special election for if Mitch pieces out.
Yeah, I know that Beshear was challenging that in court. I didn't know what the outcome was, but said it was unconstitutional what the legislature did. Yeah,
and I think that's what they ultimately decided, was that it's
so that's why Mitch is trying to, they're wheeling him around, trying to get him through these last 2 years. And there's a lot of talk that Beshear is going to run for that seat. Certainly possible.
I mean, he would win.
He's the only Democrat who can win.
He would totally win.
He's the only one who could win. I don't know if he will, but the crazy thing is that Donald Trump won Kentucky by 31 points, I think, 31, and Beshear won it by 7.
Yeah.
38-point swing. No other Democrat can do that in the South. Not that I'm aware of.
No, well, maybe Cooper kind of, but maybe
Roy
not.
Cooper, maybe. Yeah, but the difference in North Carolina is not 31 points.
That's true. That is very true. And Beshear
Manchin could do it in West Virginia, but he would have lost this time. But he did it in the past.
Yeah. That is very true. As governor and as senator, yeah.
But there aren't
He didn't
many.
win by huge margins as senator, by the way. Mentioned surprisingly, I looked at those margins; they weren't massive, but there wasn't a lot of people
But
voting.
it's a 30 point, 35 point Republican state.
Yeah, and did you
Oh,
see that Iowa special election recently, where it was like,
same, yeah,
yeah,
same thing,
same
yeah.
kind of dynamic. But I mean, I love me some Andy Bashir, so I'm all for that. And I just think Mitch McConnell needs to go the fuck home, okay, bro? Just
I know we are going to go, but let me just throw this out there too, because I hear this is a surprising thing for me to hear, and you could offer insight to this. I hear so many Democratic women say right now that we cannot nominate a woman in 2028 because they think that the country is too misogynist and will not vote for a woman president.
I
And they
mean,
think that that is why a big reason why Hillary and Kamala lost. And what they're saying is we have to make sure that we win. We have to nominate a man. And these are not men saying this. These
no,
are activist women Democrats. So I don't know that I agree with that take, but
but
curious what you think.
I mean, a lot of white women voted for Trump again, right? So I'll just say that, but and a lot of women stayed home. So I'm not going to say that that is a definitive. I will say that we are clearly more misogynist than we are at many things in this country. That is very pervasive. Like it's universally just true. And the patriarchy is really on the rise, and it's women lots of times who help that system thrive for whatever reason they benefit from it, et cetera, et cetera. But I can't say that that is a blanket statement I'm willing to go with, because I will say it really should come down to the candidate. I
Yeah.
will look at the field. I'm looking at the field as it stands right now, barring some miraculous change that somebody just appears from, the ashes that I haven't yet seen coming, which is not impossible. I don't see a woman that exists in my brain anyway that can carry a ticket at the top of the ticket, given the nature of what we just saw in 2016 and now.
Mm.
There's so much talent and there's such a deep bench. I would say from my perspective, a Wes Moore is someone I would say has a better shot, right? I just think maybe I've long said I think that ticket, whatever ticket comes next, should be a mixture, whatever that looks like. So a Wes Moore with maybe a Gretchen Whitmer, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean, that
Well,
sort of
Whitmer
thing.
is running. I mean,
Yeah,
100% Whitmer's
right.
running. And so I've heard a lot of women say like, "No, I like Whitmer, but we can't nominate her because she's a woman." And I'm like, "Whoa,
I'm not
that
willing to go there. I
sort of
just
surprised me."
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get it. I get why they're gun shy. I get it. There's a protective posture that we take
Mm.
when you think like, okay, we keep putting ourselves out there and our necks keep getting cut off. Like, stop doing
Yeah.
that. But at the
Yeah.
same time, it's like, well, no, because then you're just sort of feeding the same beast where you're saying, no, this is a ceiling we can't crack. And
And
that's just
I
not
don't know
true.
that that's why Hillary and Kamala lost either. I don't know.
I
You
mean,
know,
there's a, because you're not talking about perfect can. I love
I think you can
both
find
of
many
them.
other reasons why they
I
lost.
and then you combine them with some of that misogyny,
Yeah.
right? So do I think it is just that? No, I think Hillary was unfortunately, not likable in many ways and wasn't palatable to a lot of people for a lot of reasons, fair or unfair. And I think Kamala had the disadvantage of
Well,
being
she had the late start and
the
all
late
that.
start, but also being black and Indian and a woman, and
Sure.
and there's those things coupled together. I don't think that just the woman part of it. I think that our country is really actually there. And if you look around and you see the Gretchen Whitmers and the Jocelyn Bensons, and you see, I'm trying to think of who else, like the gubernatorial leaders,
Oh, yeah. Kamala
place,
Harris. I mean, Kamala Harris will, I
right?
think she should run for governor of California.
I think she'd be an
That's
amazing
what I
governor of
think. I think
California.
she would win easily, and I think she would be really good in that job.
I agree. I think she would also be an incredible, cabinet member. I think that I don't think we need to re-traumatize ourselves or her with a relaunch of that same candidate for that same position. I just don't think we should go back to that. I think there's too much trauma, there's too much baggage. We need to start fresh, and that means a real primary. Obviously, that will be robust if we get there. All things considered, I'm praying that we do get there. And while the courts hold and make sure that we get there, please, Lord, make sure that we get there. But Clarence Thomas is busy swearing in every fucking loser cabinet pick from his loser of Palooza. God damn, they're so bad. Cabinet picks. So Clarence is going to do his best to make sure that whatever Trump wants that comes through SCOTUS goes his way. But we'll see what happens there.
Well, he's gonna retire soon.
Very soon.
I think he's gonna retire this year.
And
Yeah,
Cannon's going to
I
get that
think
spot.
Trump will appoint someone there.
It's
Yeah.
going to be Cannon, isn't it? Isn't she going to be the first pick?
No, it won't be Cannon. No, it won't be Cannon.
You
But
don't think so?
no,
Why not?
because she has no experience at all. Like she'll never get through the Senate.
You don't
No,
think so?
she's
They just approved fucking Hegseth. They approved a guy who hasn't led a Girl Scouts troop to a Walmart parking lot.
yeah. I know, but they're not gonna let him do that. The Federalist Society is not gonna let him put Cannon on there. They're gonna want somebody really strong. Yeah, I'm sure they already have the name. It's not her, but
Well, what is
but
she?
I think Clarence is definitely done.
Clarence and Alito are probably both done. I would
Yeah,
give them. I would
yeah.
say that they're both done. And
They're
hopefully-
Alito's already said he's going to retire during Trump's term. I think one's going to go this year and the other one's going to go the next year.
Can you imagine that motherfucker's gonna have 5 goddamn motherfucking Supreme Court seats?
Unbelievable.
Unfucking believable. I remember when I had siblings who said, "Oh, it's fine. You'll get maybe one. You'll be lucky if he gets one." Okay. Thanks, Mitch, motherfucker, McConnell, for all of that, by the way. Well, okay. So,
All right.
Ron, what's the bulletin called? It's called the Daily Bulletin with Ron
Yeah,
Filipkowski.
Today in politics. Yeah.
Today in politics. Find it on the Midas Touch Substack, guys. If you're not on Substack, please go to Substack. Substack is still
The best.
It's the best. Broligarch free for now. It's really happy. It's a happy place to go to. You're gonna feel sane there, I promise you. And all your favorites are over there, including Ron Filipkowski, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me and giving me all your time today.
You got it.
All right,
See ya.
guys. Thank you. That concludes this episode of the Are You Effing Kidding Me podcast. Oh God. Stay safe. Stay sane-ish. See you next time. Bye.